Greatness. 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 Bow, bow, bow. Greatness.
Welcome to the Renewing the Mind podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Sanchez. Joined with me, as always, my dad, Dr. Raul Sanchez. How you doing, Dad?
I'm feeling amazing. Like back in the day at NDSU, we had a saying, those who stay will play. Those who play will be champions. Once a champion, always a champion, baby. There she be right there. Let's go.
And there's the ring kiss. On this podcast,
Always.
we teach you how to renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation. And never forget, there's 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't. Man, that intro gets me so hyped.
It's dope, isn't it? That should be like our new workout.
I love it.
Yeah. Take some pre-workout and listen to that.
Got the new background. Man, I'm loving StreamYard. This format, this platform is incredible. Couple shout outs to people watching. The wife is watching. Obviously I have a new background, got some new scenery. You see the Michigan stuff. I'm in my office. It's just easier to do setup stuff. And
that helmet though, that's real.
Yeah, you see the right here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You see my lava lamp back here too. It's a little odd, but... All right. Anyways, another quick shout out. Have a nice beard company. Shout out for sending me the free t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? They recognize the beard game is on point. Sent me a shirt.
Game recognizes game.
Got a little tag there. You know, got the beard logo on the back of it. I'm telling you, if you have a beard, hit up on Instagram. Have a nice beard co. Sweet stuff. Great beard oil, t-shirts. You should get one.
Yeah. That's awesome. Making me want to grow one of mine out.
Do it.
Except it's a lot more white.
Yeah, it'd be peppery.
Yes.
Before we get started, we want to talk about something that's near and dear to our heart. We started this podcast, 2 years ago now?
Yes.
2 years ago, wanting to build a community that we partner brain versus and brain and science versus heart and Christian theology, psychology versus pastoral ministries. And so we also wanted to build a community that can walk through life together and be there for one another, help each other out with anything that's going on. And so we did get permission to do this. And so I asked Sherry Johnson if we could do this, because I know some of our listeners are a little cautious when we start talking about other people's lives. And so there's a fundraiser Tuesday, August 31st for their son, Connor. Yeah. Connor had has cancer in the ears, done some surgery, and is fighting that battle. And so they have a fundraiser Tuesday, August 31st, 4:30 to 8:30 at Pizza Ranch on Floyd Boulevard if you're in Sioux City and local. If not, if you can't make it to Pizza Ranch, contact Sherry Johnson on Facebook and send a prayer, send a hey, keep it going, some encouragement. If you can financially support, I know that'd be huge. We will be there. I think you said you guys are going to try to make it as well.
Yep. And how it works is you give tips to people who pick your plates up. So to the bussers, you give tips, and those tips go right to the family.
Yeah. So
it's a good idea.
Yep. And if you can't make it, man, send cash, send a check, contact Sherry and reach out to him. I had a chance to pray for them over the weekend, and that's what it's all about. It's not just about coming on here, but it's about being a community outside of this, our show every other Tuesday. So
yes.
Last thought on that is we believe that God will heal, and God has the ability to heal, and we will continue to believe and pray for that until God says otherwise. So that's the prayer. If you could keep him, if you can't make it, you're not from Sioux City, you're out of town, make sure you're praying for Connor. That's his name.
He's 8 years old.
Yep. So pray for him, keep him in your prayers, put him in your prayer journal, and let's lift him up in prayer. Go to battle spiritually for this young man. So amen. Sweet. Today on this podcast, sometimes we bring you content that is like I thought of, it was an inspiration to me or Dad thought about, and other times we bring information that we heard from someone else. And we're not trying to plagiarize. We're not trying to say, hey, this is our own thought, but it was a thought that then sparked something else. And then we're going to bring our own take onto that. That's what we did with the Rest podcast. And so that's what we're going to do today. So I listened to a podcast, probably what you said, like a month ago, maybe now.
Yep.
And it's something me and Dad talk about a lot. And so I was like, dude, you have to listen to this. You know, obviously Dad blew me off, didn't listen to it first.
I was like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah. So I was like, have you listened to it yet? He's like, no, tonight I'll listen to it. This was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago now.
Yes.
And listen to it. And he's like, dude, incredible podcast. So
yes,
the podcast is called Secret to Success podcast. It's from Eric Thomas and associates. And so he's a number one motivational speaker in the world, but it was on capitalism and Christianity and the fight that kind of has,
right?
What that looks like. You know, Christian morals and values sometimes don't translate to the workforce. Should it translate to the workforce? Does God bless that? That's the whole podcast. But the line that stuck out to me and also to Dad was, if you are a Christian, you capitalize on the gift that God gave you. That's capitalism.
Correct. That's his definition of capitalism. And he's a pastor and the number one motivational speaker in the world. And he feels like God gave him that, preparing a sermon.
Yep. So once again, if you are a Christian, and I'll throw it in the comments, you capitalize on the gift that God gave you. That's capitalism. It's not about stepping on someone else to gain. It's you do and grind for the gift God has given you. So there's some of the questions we're going to answer or try to discuss, and we want you to hop into the comments. This is not a teaching on our end. This is an open discussion, and we want this to be two-way conversation. So a couple of the questions we're going to try to discuss at least is, does God bless the grind or the gift, or both? The
Correct.
Gift and the grind. Is capitalism about the grind or the gift in the world? Is it all about your gifting? Is it all about your grind? Can you tell the difference between grinding and gifting? Is hard work all you need, or is there also some talent there? And then one of the last biggest ones is, does God just favor some people over others by giving them incredible gifts? Or does he simply favor those that work the hardest by developing their gifts?
Right.
So the real conversation me and you have a lot of the time is, man, is God just gonna, if we work and work, is God just gonna open the doors of heaven like scripture says?
Yes.
Shaken down, pressed together, overflowing. And what does that look like if he does or he doesn't?
Yeah. So one of the verses that pops up when I think about this, because it's something that I just not necessarily struggle with, but something I pray through a lot, is the Bible says this, like, all that the Father has to me, all that the Father has for me will come to me. That's Jesus saying to his Father, right? In other words, like, everything my dad has for me, he'll get it to me. And so Christians kind of take a look at that and they just pray, and they just wait for God to come deliver like a package, like Amazon. And I think that's where people get hurt, because they're like, man, I'm praying, man, I have faith, I'm praying, I have faith, and I don't know what's wrong. God's not answering my prayers. That's so hard, because yes, God has things for you, and yes, they will come to you, but I don't think it's on a conveyor belt. Like, I think sometimes Christians believe like we're at the airport where you take 4 steps, but you actually went 10 yards. Like when you're on one of those, like floor escalators that you just fly, and that's not true. It's just not true. Now, one of the verses that they brought up was the idea that, that it's more than one gift. Like, this isn't just like financial. So they gave 3 John chapter 1, verse 2, and it says, may you prosper, okay, and your health prosper, even as your soul prospers. So there's like 3 prosperities they talk about, right? Which is, you prospering financially, your health is a prosperity, and then the last one is your soul, even as your soul. So as a Christian, you're working on your soul, which is your mind, your intellectual mind, your emotions, and your will. Like, how hard am I going to grind? How hard am I going to go for it? That's your will. That's part of your soul. So our soul will prosper with following the Lord, but we still have to work on our health. That's a different grind. And we have to also still work on our money. That's a different grind. And so that's some of the things that they talked about. So, but that concept of all that the Father has for me will come for me.
Yep. What's that verse again? I'm gonna throw it in the comments. Someone wants it.
Okay. So that verse was 3 John 1:2. And so that's where the difficulty is. Now we talk about this just as a family also, because like, us being such young parents, and Stacy and me and you going to college together, like that's really weird for people to understand. And then on top of that, I was working
to be there.
yeah. I should have been there, bro. Like, okay, so like it's weird to think about. Like, I played college football and is married with a kid, and taking full credits, and mom too, Stacy taking full credits, and then I'm working at Fairway Foods, which is like 6 p.m. until like 3 a.m. And people don't understand that kind of grind. Like, how do you do it? How can you do it? Like, and so in the beginning stages, your grind leads you to your gifting. I had no idea I could coach people. I had no idea I was so motivational or I was so inspirational. But all throughout those little jobs, people plucked me really quickly. They just said, hey, you should do this. Hey, you should do this. And, people would call me brown noser, butt kisser, like teacher's pet, all that kind of junk. And I would just say, hey, don't hate. I got 2 checks because I'd get a check plus a bonus. They'd hate on me. And the only thing I knew is like I had to bring money home. We kept mom home so she could be home with you. And so this is what people don't understand.
Yeah, but in those moments, go ahead.
No, this is what people don't understand. Like we'll say, yeah, the Lord helped us. We followed the Lord's plan and we did it. And then you're the first one to say, yeah, but you still had to get up and work. Yeah, you still had to go put on all those hours, right? And
well,
that's
it goes deeper than that though. So
right.
like you, no offense, made some dumb decisions when you were, 17, and boom, here I am. And so that put you in a financial situation where you had to literally just put your nose down to the ground and grind.
I didn't have to. I could have walked away.
True. But if you wanted success,
I could have sang some Michael Jackson.
Right.
The child ain't mine.
Anyway, that's a whole other podcast.
Okay, my bad.
You put your nose down and grinded, and worked hard for several years, 12 years, went and got your graduate master's. And then I'm in 6th, 7th grade when I'm finally starting to realize that we're at a different financial level than our friends and my friends. And I'm like, dude, you've busted your butt for 14 years and we still are. I mean, we're not dirt poor, but we're not like at the level of what I saw from other people. And that's kind of where I was like, man, there's people that aren't Christians that are dominating financially.
Yeah. So we would have been considered house poor. Like, we got house and we got cars, but like, we're just making it because we got all my college loan bills. And so it's a late climb.
You got bamboozled at a Sears and from some RCA surround sound system.
That was back in college, bro. That was paid off by the time we left North Dakota. But
no, you're still paying that off. That was $1,000 surround sound. All right, a couple comments here. Let's throw this up there.
Okay.
Alicia, the beautiful wife, says, what do you mean by grind? Work hard in your gifting or work hard in your job? Because sometimes those aren't the same thing. Ooh. We did not preload this question either.
That's really good. Okay, so listen.
This is kind of what we just talked about the other day.
Yes, and this is so crazy because people don't understand this. They're like, I'm grinding because people are like, oh, I'm on the grind and I got a new car. I'm on the grind and God's good, and people are like doing a job because they hate it. So I always say this, like when you're on your climb, so like here's where I'm at, here's where I want to go. The distance between where I stand and my goals, that's the climb. I have to climb. So the effort on the climb is your grind. Now, I had no idea that I would become a psychologist at that time. I was going in athletic training, but I knew I needed the cash. So that would be a straight grind. I'm at a warehouse at Fairway Foods and I'm stacking pallets and we're driving the pallet truck into a semi, and that semi is driving to Sioux City and dropping food off at the Fairway Foods in Sioux City, like that kind of thing. I knew I wasn't going to be there. I'm not a lifer there. I'm just like, this is just a grind. So this is the deal. People go there and they don't develop their gifts. Now, I'm not there sharing a gift because I don't even know what my gift is yet. But looking backwards after when I was ready to leave, they tried to hire me, wanted me to go full time, and they offered me these bonuses. And they're like, you don't understand the influence you have. You influence people by working hard. People copy you. Like you set the tone. That's actually the language they used to use. You set the tone. So what's my gift? Okay, so my gift was I'm a hard worker. Hands down, that's what I thought. Like people say, dude, you have a gift. Okay, I just work hard. But that was actually the grind. That wasn't my gift yet. But on that way, people could get influenced by me. They're like, hey, how do you work so hard? Hey, how'd you know how to get this bonus? And so, the faster you got your ticket done, the more bonuses you got. They gave you a time limit. You beat your time limit, you get a bonus. You're too late, then you get a punishment.
If you just grinded at that place and didn't do anything else.
Right.
You would still be there.
I would still be there. And that would be my grind. I'd be like
a manager there.
Yeah. I'd be a manager, maybe owner, whatever. So
this is the problem I run into.
Yes.
There's the thing you have to do to pay the bills.
Yes.
that basically is just putting the Band-Aid from a lot of people on the wound,
Yes.
the wound, but it's not actually fixing it.
Correct.
Like we got a hole in the boat, we're just patching it, and then we're patching it and we're patching it, but we're not actually putting a motor on the boat and moving.
Correct.
We're doing enough to maintain. And there's a lot of us that feel like the ability to just maintain and grind currently is just enough to do and to sustain the current life, not necessarily even get to the next level.
Correct. So this is where the life-changing events happen. When I would sit down and they would try to promote me to go work in the fridge and go work in the freezer because it was more pay, I would just ask them, what do you want me to do? And how do you know I could do it? I didn't have the confidence, you know? And so they would be like, well, look at your tickets, look at your bonuses, look at this. And I would just say, do you think I could do it? And they'd be like, what do you mean? And so because of those questions, they would start to say, hey, you're really good at this. Hey, you're good at that. And so I literally would chew on those. I hang on to those. And then I would go to work, you know, and I'd lay in bed, go home and I'd lay in bed thinking about work. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do it. And this is the key. Listen, when people give you truth that's either hurting you or truth that should lift you up, like, hey, you're really good at this, that energy that people put into you, language, interactions, relationships, it's 100% energy, and they fly to frequency. This energy hits you and you have to ask yourself a question, which is, okay, I have this feeling where I want to break out of here. What am I going to do about it? And then really quickly, people think of offenses like, oh, you know, they just won't give me the raise that I want. Like, you know, I'm not going to get the raise like Sanchez. It's not even going to work. So we talk ourselves down and then we find offenses or excuses that tell us why we can't get there.
Yeah.
And that mental breakdown is something now I watch for because my mind is programmed by thoughts. My thoughts scan the environment all the time. And I'm like, yep, there's the teacher's pet. Yep, I'm not going to get that bonus. Yep, there goes my stuff. And that starts to crash people. Like I actually had buddies who quit work because it was just too hard of a grind. And I was there thinking, you know, hey, if I stay here another year, next year I could make 1150. Next year I can make 1350. I just started looking at the scale. I started looking at the climb. I wasn't going to go chase another job and start from $7 an hour and work back up again. It's just simple. Now, the people who get offended, all that energy crashes them. And the people who are resilient, they use that truth. I mean, I got plucked a couple of times like, hey, you can't do this. Next time you're going to get warned because I tipped over a couple of pallets and it's a bunch of dollars that you lose. So they reprimand you. When I heard that, like, that doesn't make me mad to like quit. That makes me mad to push harder. That makes me resilient.
But you didn't grind there. You understood that that's not where you wanted to be.
No, but see, look, I didn't want to be there, but I grinded there. Like my productivity there was like 33% higher than all my buddies, even NDSU football players, because every single paycheck I could get a bonus, and I knew I had a kid. So I'm like, I need to grab that bonus. So yes, I grinded there for you and mom, and I knew I didn't want to be there though. Does it make sense?
Yeah,
Some of the people are there and like, dude, I want to be here.
2-path grind. You grinded there to pay the bills, and you also grinded in college because you knew you didn't want to stay there.
Correct.
That's the piece that is very difficult for people to grasp. Like, for instance, people like will message us and think that we try to make money off the podcast. In reality, this podcast costs us money. Like,
costs us money.
We pay money to be able to put the podcast on.
Yes.
We set up for an hour a night. 2 to 3 hours a week. We go over our content.
Yes.
And we just do it because we want another lane to grind in, because we know the spiritual, the motivational, the relational and community aspect of this. And we like that grind, but this doesn't pay our bills.
Correct.
And I still have to do my 9 to 5.
Correct.
That's hard for a lot of people to grasp.
Right. And this is where,
because to be honest, some people come home and they're exhausted.
Right. And this is the key. None of us click into our young child. The Bible talks about a faith as a child. Why does a child have so much faith? Because they don't second guess their mind. We second guess. We are our own worst enemy. So when like I'm working, at the Fairway Foods, I'm just using that one job, but that's it. And then I'm grinding at school because I wanted to be an athletic trainer. I started to fall apart a little bit, lost my grades a little bit, but I realized I wouldn't want to be a trainer. Then I bounced around. I went to architecture. Then I went to criminal justice. And I heard a retired FBI guy talk about psychology. And I was like, dude, I want your job. I didn't know how much he made. I didn't really, he went to go teach people how to read criminals, like basically body language stuff. And I was like, dude, I want your job. Like I knew that was something that was attractive to me. So I went after it. I had no idea about pay. And I didn't even know that you had to go get a PhD at that point, but I did. Yeah. Then at Iowa, I didn't know if I wanted to work in a clinic or a school or a prison. So I doubled up hours and I worked on all three just because I didn't know who I wanted to be. The blessing was when I graduated, I had twice as many hours in clinical care than other people. So I had much more experience. Now, see, the blessing still is I'm a hard worker. I'm a grinder, but part of it's because I don't know who I am or what my gift was. Now, it wasn't after sitting down in supervision and people having quarterly reviews with you, they start to say, hey, what's your strength? I'm like, I'm a hard worker. Like, oh, you're way more than that. And they would tell it to you. People don't understand their gifts because they don't grind hard enough outside of one job. So they have one person giving them reviews. The number one thing you need to do.
At a place where someone's not giving you feedback or is a dumb leader, that might be difficult to do.
Right. So you have to start volunteering. You have to start doing the work. And that's where the grind comes from. How do you find your gift if you have one job and you work basic hours?
And that might not even be something that you like or enjoy.
You're not going to do it.
All right.
Okay. So one option is you double grind. The second option is you get creative like a child. So these are for people who like whiteboard, destiny. They take a look at stuff on dream boards and they think, where's my destiny? Where's my plan? Where's my vision? Yeah. So many people call me a dreamer because every time we go out for coffee, we talk. They're like, where do you see yourself? You know, today I was talking about, somebody says, what about your dream job? So you're living a dream. And I said, sometimes. And he's like, so what's your dream job? I said, Tony Robbins. I want to travel the world. I want to have an elite conference on an island. And just like that, we started planning. It was just like, boom, boom, boom. This is going to be cool. This is going to be dope. This is going to be, I'm like, okay. Then everybody always says, hey, dude, keep dreaming. Everybody keeps saying that to me. I'm a dreamer. That's the young child in me. That's where I keep figuring out these gifts. You and I shot that around for, I don't even know, 3 years. And we're like, dude, we should start a podcast. Okay. And so these are the things that people have to do. The gifting is something people have told you your whole life. It's something supervisors hint to you like, hey, this is the thing you're really good at. And it's sometimes you just like wake up and you just know, like people just like, dude, I'm really good with flowers, or I'm really good with music, or I'm really good at athletics.
Well, and this comes down to the biblical principles of it too. It's like sometimes we think that like we're like praying, oh God, what's my calling? It's like, well, what are you naturally gifted at?
Yes.
What are you naturally good at? Like from day one, my whole life, every parent teacher conference, I talk too much.
You talk too much and you're a leader.
And I swayed the class in the wrong way, the wrong way.
Sometimes lead the wrong direction.
No, sometimes, a lot of the time. Yeah. So, but like, okay, so then God's not going to call me to be a carpenter when I can't do anything with my hands. Like it also falls into your natural talents and abilities.
Yeah.
Let's hop into some of these comments. We got Gene Boykin says, but shouldn't we always put our nose down and grind? And just because people have money doesn't mean they're in God's favor, does it? ? I think that comes back. He posted that when I said that sometimes, in 6th grade, I would see other families and other business people. Even today, we're like, dude, that guy or that girl, I mean, we know that they're not living in the favor of God. And just because they have money doesn't necessarily mean that that's God's blessing. Right.
And that's a great question. So yes, you should always grind. Because you're always going to learn something. Okay.
When Scripture says anything you find your hands to do it to the glory of God.
You do it for the Lord. And so this is the trick question. Like, is it the grind or is it the gift? The idea is your grind leads you to your gift, because on your climb, you can grind and you only know this through grinding. You'll grind and it stinks, and you grind and you're sore, and you grind and you got pain, and you grind and grind and grind. And then one day you grind and you feel good. And so people ask me all the time, like when I first got to Sioux City, I'd sometimes see 12 people in a day. That's back to back to back to back. It's like 6 people, take a lunch break, take 6 people, because I was trying to get my name out so much. And they'd be like, I don't know how you do it. Like E.T. said in the quote that I posted, he's like, I'm on the phone, 12 hours a day and I ain't even tired. He's like, when you operate in your gift, you don't get tired. So that's your answer. When you grind in your gift, it doesn't feel like grinding. I still have more to give. Does that make sense? So my partner at the office, Lisa, is just getting started. She's a great therapist. And she'll say to me, she's like, dude, I can't imagine how you'd see 10 people in a day. And I'm like, it's something you just develop. You just develop. Then but if it wasn't my gift, I'd be absolutely exhausted and just come home probably faint.
Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't there that worldly quote that you'll never work another day in your life if you do something that you love?
Yeah, because it's more like you're gifting. It's creative.
But here,
I get to create interventions for families who have a problem. Sometimes I know the answer, sometimes I don't, and it's fun to research an answer. And like, I know it's probably competitive, whatever you want to call it, but I want to be the first dude who can solve this. Like these guys went to several people, nobody can solve it. I want to be first. I want to be first. I want to be first. Like that's scoring a touchdown for me. And then they're like, dude, that's genius. I'm like, well, I mean, it's just luck, it's just blessed, and then you just stay there. But this is the other thing. If you're operating your gifting, you can pop up before your alarm clock because it's fun. Like you're engaged. Like think about this. Like on vacation, you sleep in. But on a day where you're doing something you love, like if it's a mountain climb or if it's a theme park or if it's just sit at the beach, you can wake up early and just go. Like think about a young kid who's so excited to get up and go. That's when we operate in the gifting. So the grind leads you to your gift because in those grinds, you learn things that you wouldn't know just like going slow.
Okay. Next one. What happens when your grind becomes your identity? I think that's a lot
huge.
Of people.
That's huge. Yeah. Okay. So who's that? That's Crystal. Crystal, that's brilliant. Okay. Listen, that's 100% of everybody. That's 100% of everybody. Anybody who has to let go of a career, anybody has to switch, they mourn that because they're known for that. You're known. You could be the coffee guy at work, or you could be, the mixer guy, whatever, you're the podcast guy. It doesn't matter. And so that's super important, but you have to realize who were you before the identity. And if you can like take the identity off, like the hat, the name tag, whatever. So for me, it'd be doctor. Okay. Doctor said, okay, I take that off. I'm no longer a licensed psychologist. I retired. My gift is still there. What's my gift? I influence people. I teach people. I'm a coach. Those giftings are still there. The identity tag is what's moved. So I'm no longer Dr. Sanchez, but maybe I'm still a coach. Maybe I'm a mentor. Maybe I'll have a cool coat or hat or whatever. Like I'm the coffee mentor. And I can still carry a piece of that identity, but see the climb turned. And when it turns, if you can pull a piece of that identity that travels with you, that's still your gifting, and your gifting morphs. Your gifting will ebb and flow with you, and God will still show you that next piece. Yeah. And the genius is hanging on to all those little, ebbs and flows of your identity, because you realize it's not based on one thing. It has multi legs and you can't get knocked down. If you think you have an identity and it's only one, and somebody pulls that from you, like an athlete when they can no longer play, that's why even like the great people in the world, like Michael Phelps, that's why they fall. Yep. You strip that identity from them.
I would also say too, that at the core of every one of us, we are children of God. And I know that sounds really cliche, but when you remember at the end of the day, I'm not a pastor, you're not a psychologist, that we are put on this earth to move God's kingdom forward. And that sometimes is as a pastor, a janitor, a teacher, a person who mows the lawn. And it's not based on that I'm the youth pastor at Morningside Assembly of God. And if that ever left, I'm still someone that believes that the next generation needs to hear Jesus. And so when I lay my head down and I don't find my self-worth based on, which is really difficult to do, but I don't find my self-worth based on the success of my current position.
Yeah. So here's another point. This is really cool. But and this is ET's. It's a Bible verse, but it's ET's. He uses it all the time. He says, "My gift will make room for me," and that comes from Proverbs 18:16. Proverbs 18:16, and it says this: "A man's gift maketh room for him, and bringeth him before great men." It's so deep, dude. So deep. Like, thank you, Lord. So a man's gift will make room for him. What does that mean? Like people all the time say to me, like, "Hey, dude, hey, doc, like, I mean, I want to do these big things, but I just can't seem to get my foot in the door, or I can't get a seat at the table." And that mindset just kills people. Like, whose table you eating at? How many tables are there? So stop. I'm just real, but I'm saying stop crying. Like, so you can't get to that one table. That's one table. How many restaurants are there? How many tables are there? How many board meetings? How many companies are you looking at? And so if we just renew our perspective for a second, we can still take a look at that. Like, your gift will make room for you. There will be room at the table. If there's no room at that table, God's saying, "Hey, that's the wrong company, bro. That's the wrong meeting room. Like, keep going."
Yep.
Keep climbing, because as you turn, there's another spot. Okay, my gift made room for me. There I'm at. I'm boom. And then all of a sudden, I'm before these great men, right? Grinders. And Crystal, that one that says, "I get stuck working so hard in the business that I forget to work on the business." That's 100%. So those people would be considered emotionally dead. I'm going and I'm just in the grind. I'm just in the grind. I'm just in the grind. I'm going through the motions. I'm just going through the motions, just going through the motions. And it's just like the rat race, click, just whatever, click, 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 click,
This
click.
one is a huge fault for pastors and in my ministry, that we get so caught up on doing ministry that we forget that we need to be a part of a ministry. And that
Yes.
if you think about it, every service I sit through, I have to think about the mics or the air or the sound or something's going wrong or who needs prayer. I don't ever get ministered to. So that's why we do the Tuesday night Follow the Belonging Code. And that's where we sit and have someone minister to us. I think it's the same thing outside of this world, outside of the church world, is that we forget sometimes to work on ourselves. Not
Yes.
necessarily even. So if you just focused on the grind job that you have to just pay the bills with, how are you growing outside of that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So secret number one, the grind turns into the gift, or the grind leads you to your gift. Okay. The secret number two, your gift is in the creativity. Your gift is in the creating. God worked 7 days, but what did he do? He created. He created on day 1, day 2, he created, day 3, he created, day 4, he created, day 5, day 6, he created, day 7, he rested. He created. It doesn't say he grinded. He didn't do the same thing over and over and over and over. Each day was brand new. So when you go to the grind, yes, you pay the bills, but you come home and here's where people aren't doing it. Wake up 30 minutes early, stay up 30 minutes early, take 30 minutes after you listen to the Belonging Company. You have a podcast. I do it all the time. Like after the podcast, this is my just original notes. I was out mowing and I came in and I just started jotting down everything I had just as fast as I could. And I called Tyler. I'm sweating, dripping sweat just from mowing. And I called the boys. I'm like, hey, Tyler's right. You got to have I called the podcast. Hey, Tyler's right. You got to get on this.
Later.
I mean, you're what, 32? You got one? I'm 32. Just kidding. 33, you got one? No, I'm just kidding. No, for real though, but this is a steal. So don't forget this. You have to spend a little bit of time practicing your gift. How do you practice your gift? You have to create it. You have to create. So you start writing down, what would it look like if I started a podcast? What would it look like if I opened a coffee shop? What would it look like if I had a taco truck? What would it look like if I started a daycare for dogs? Like, what would it look like? And you start to draw that. Now, nothing's going to happen. It's just a piece of paper. But over time, that piece of paper morphs into an idea, morphs into energy, morphs into you meet somebody. And you're like, hey, I had this crazy idea. And they're like, I thought of you with dogs. And next thing you know, like, no way. Guess, look what I've been journaling. And then that's how your gift starts to push. It comes through the creativity piece.
And the hard part is, I think this comment here, it takes a long time to figure out your gifts. I think the hard part is there's no recipe for how long you have to, like we've said, just put your nose down and grind, how long you have to do that extra 2 to 3 hours a day, how long you have to wake up at 5 to 8 to do your side hustle and then go to your job. There's no time constraints. There's no recipe for how that works.
Right.
Next one, God puts you through that grind to receive the gifts he has for us. Gold goes through the fire to refine it and make it more valuable. Agreed.
That's good. That's a cousin Gene Boykin.
Here's another one. I'm grabbing coffee with him tomorrow.
Awesome.
Here's another one. Esther, God, and this is, I think, the crux. This is the crossroads. This is the thing that I think is the hardest part for me. And I think for a lot of us, that God elevates you in his time, which may to not be down here.
Which may not be down here, like may not be on earth.
Yeah. On earth.
May not be down here. Yeah.
Yep. So that to me, I think is the hardest part of this whole thing, is that at the core of this, you're grinding, you're moving forward because God gives you influence and a platform to bring Jesus.
Yes.
The areas of your workplace. That's it. That's the only reason. It's not to get houses. It's not cars. It's not financial freedom. It's not, it's literally to bring the message of Jesus around the world.
Yes.
And so the way that happens is by putting people in different places. It happens by financial freedom. It's like almost a byproduct of being faithful, but at the same time, being a faithful Christian doesn't guarantee you worldly promotion.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So, what are the two standing, like, resilient versus learning verses that you boys have had for decades? Like, remember the two?
I don't listen when you talk to me. I zone out.
No, like when you're a little kid, right?
Not when
The little
if you're
things.
faithful with little, you be faithful with much. And to
Yes.
whom much is given, much is required.
Yes, I've paired they're two separate verses, like Matthew and Luke, but I paired those together because this is my thing. So to Esther's comment, I believe God does elevate you because the Bible is very clear. He who's faithful with little will also be faithful with much. If you trust a little dude, to come mow your lawn and he does it really well and he doesn't cheat, he has good lines, you might say to him like, hey, you know what? I got a job. I'm going to go head out of town. Do you want to come with me? If somebody's faithful with little, you'll be faithful with much. And then here's the second piece.
But does that pause?
Yeah.
But does that guarantee that person who is a faithful lawnmower, who has one mower, who does a great job, he's going to have a lawn mowing business that's going to make him a lot of money?
No. And here's why.
See, that's what people think.
To him who's faithful with little, you will be faithful with much. And to whom much is given, much is also then required back. So look, I was grinding at North Dakota State. My goal was to go pro. A couple of pro teams looked at me my senior year. I crushed my shoulder. I break a knuckle in my hand. So I'm out. I only played I don't remember 4 games my senior year. And I was still speaking around, Fargo, whatever. And people would say, you have a gift, you have an incredible gift. And I was still thinking football. They're like, you have an incredible gift. God's got great things for you. And people would say, hey, I'm a prophet, or hey, I heard this word for you. And they would give me these words. And I write it all down. And I'm still looking at the mowing business. I'm still looking at the same thing that God brought me to the table. I got in the door with football and I'm still looking at football and no one's calling. I went to Europe and no one's calling, and then I had to hang that up. And then I just went okay, I'm going to go to grad school because that was my plan B. That's okay, I don't know nowhere else. So I applied to grad school just in case, sold out for football. It died. And then I'm okay, now what? So here's my thing. You might get in the door because you're grinding and mowing, but when God puts you in front of somebody, because your gift will make room for you and he'll put you before people, that will change. Your climb churns. And this is what people people get so wrapped up in it. I wanted to be a mower. I wanted to be this grinder. I wanted to have a mowing company. I love lawns. Okay. That might be your passion. That might be a hobby, but it doesn't mean your grind's over. It doesn't mean your gift is over. You still have to stay on there because God will show you. Maybe down the road, you might be able to pick up both businesses, but you've got to let go of the mowing business. And now you step into that new world. And that's where people hang on to that dream so much. And this is where you got it. And this is where a guy named Mike Murdoch, he's a preacher a long time. He's old dude now probably, but I used to follow him, but he would say this: if you hang on to what you have, God hangs on to what he has. When you can learn to let go of everything you have, God lets go of what he has. Your gifts will come to you. Everything my Father has for me will come to me, but it's not free. And that's, salvation's free. The grind and the gifts aren't.
Here's a great quote from Lauren. A great quote he heard from Denzel Washington: just because you're doing a lot more doesn't mean you're getting a lot more done.
That's true. That's so true. That's the difference between business. Not harder. Yeah, that's the difference between business and productivity. Business and productivity. Everybody can be busy, but not everybody's productive. That's great. Good quote.
I think too, when it comes to that promotion, so here's something you hear in the church a lot is that there's this a weird idea around being very wealthy.
Yeah,
there's kind of almost a negative thought that if there's a Christian family that's very wealthy, it's kind of seen because of the scripture. It's harder for a rich man to enter to heaven than a camel to fit through the head of a needle.
Okay,
paraphrased. And so the problem is though that we see that as difficult, and then we go to the Beatitudes when it's poor in spirit and to suffer for the kingdom of God. And I think that sometimes in Christianity and inside the church world, or even business people, that there's a weird notion that to be successful has to be a blessing or given to you by God. And it's a weird thought that I can't just even though I'm working hard, it's either God's favor and blessing on my life, and it's also detached from the hard work that I've just been put in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that is, and then some people say, well, I don't want to have money. I want to suffer in poverty because that's suffering for the kingdom of God.
Yeah. And it just depends on people's view. But if you look back at the Old Testament, E.T. and his guys said, they gave the scriptures and talked about Solomon and Job and all the strong, faithful Christians that had everything.
Yeah.
You know, and then the grind and suffering is when all that take, you know, God establishes kings and kingdoms, and God removes kings and kingdoms. And when that stuff happens, that's when the suffering for Christ happens. But they don't happen at the same time often, but you got to be willing. Here's the thing I want to go over. So Matthew 20, verse 1 through 16, it's the parable of the workers in the vineyard. Okay. So long story short, a rich dude goes out into the marketplace, 6 a.m. and interviews a bunch of people. He hires a guy and says, hey, will you work all day long, sun up to sundown, for a denarius for the today? And he says, yes. And so they actually sign a contract. He goes to work. As the sun starts going down, the Bible says the third hour, he went out again, hired a couple more people. And he was so busy because he's trying to get this field done in the day because he's got a timeline. You know, time is money for business owners. And so he's like, hey, just can you come work? Sweet. For whatever's right. That's what he kept saying, for whatever's right. He didn't promise a wage. He said, whatever's right. They said, okay, at the 6th hour, whatever's right. The 9th hour, whatever's right. At the 11th hour, which is 1 hour left before the sun goes down, he goes out for the last guy and he said, how come you haven't been hired? And the guy says, nobody would hire me. And he says, all right, would you like to come work for me for whatever's right? He says, sure. That dude works an hour. They finish the field. He calls his taxpayer guy to line up everybody, and he lines them up last to first. So the first dude who gets paid is that dude who worked an hour. He got a denarius, which is the day's wage. The dudes who work 3 hours, a denarius. The dude who worked 6 hours, a denarius. The dude who worked 9 hours, a denarius. The first dude who worked 12 hours got a denarius. The Bible is very clear. It says he supposed that he was going to get more because he had been there longer. Okay. So he was hurt. So he, within earshot, he turns and he complains, and King James says murmured. Okay. But other variations say he complained. And so then the owner came to him and said, hey, sir, you're upset because you got a denarius for today? And he says, yes. And he says, you're the only one who got to negotiate a contract. You agreed to the dollar or denarius. And he was just still mad. And this is crazy because in his quote, I want to get it right. Yeah. So he supposed he would get more. And then, so the guy says to him, is your eye evil because I'm generous? It's like, whoa, dude, is your eye evil because I'm generous? Like, why are you butthurt that I got money to pay this poor dude who nobody would hire? Quit crying. Right. So when I talk to people who are offended, right? So that offense, that guy's going to go home. He's going to be like, why do I grind? Like, this sucks. I'm grinding out here, making the same wage as some fart who can't get a job. He works for 1 hour. He makes my same wage. This is stupid. I'm quitting my job. My boss sucks. Look, out of the whole entire workforce, when the boss had all the people in the marketplace to hire, you're a number one draft pick. You're the first dog he called to pull the whole sled. The rest of the people are fill-ins. So, okay, you work for a generous guy. You could have negotiated more. Quit crying because you're the first round draft pick. Quit crying because you led and anchored the whole team. These dudes are just coming in late. Like, why do people get so offended by this? And this is what I see. The grind versus the gift. That dude grinded 12 hours and got $1, let's say. I think it was a penny, actually, whatever, but it's the denarius. The other guy came in and got a gift. He worked an hour and he got a gift. Okay. That dude is going to be more blessed. Like, you know what? Maybe people are fair. You know what? Maybe I'll show up in the marketplace earlier tomorrow. I won't show up last hour. The other guy's got to have that energy to focus and be like, look, I was a number one draft pick. I ran that whole team. I did it. Like, I'm gonna go there. Maybe he'll pay me some more. Maybe he doesn't. Okay. So then work for a different worker. But when you get offended and you pull back, the grind stops. You'll never find your gift. This is what I try to tell people. I believe firmly, I bank my life on it, that the gift shows up in the grind. It's on the way. I never would have become a psychologist if I would have quit. And I literally wanted to quit college 4 times because I didn't know what I wanted. You know, you're with by those dudes who just like knew since they were 4, like, oh, I always wanted to be an FBI guy. Like, oh, I've always wanted to run a business and be an accountant. Like, oh, and I'm like, I just wanted to be an athlete or work with athletes. That's all I knew.
Yep.
Okay. And so when you're kind of looking at that and like, dude, everything I believed is wrong. Everything I thought I suck at, like, what? I don't know what to do. So I just went and talked to my advisor, and he's like, literally, this is advice. Do you have some friends? Yeah. why don't you ask them what they are studying and why? Maybe you'll find something. I'm like, bro, aren't you a doctor? Like, that's your best advice? Like, so I go out and talk to my boys, like, and I found 8 dudes who are in criminal justice. So I went to criminal justice. Like, but it was in there, thank God, that I met this psychologist.
Yep.
Okay.
No, and back to that parable, I think here's what I say. And actually, I'm preaching Sunday. Shout out if you're in the Siouxland area, watch Morningside. Come to
Let's
Morningside.
go.
Or if you're out of town, morningsideag.info live stream. Anyways, the idea is it's not, but all of those people, all of those workers, let's say they're walking with Jesus, and that's what Jesus asked them to do in those moments.
Right.
That's the parable, right? Another point of that is that the person was asked to work all day long, and that's the circumstance he was given. Correct. And so when it comes to being to rich, wealthy, poor, not poor, working 40 hours, 20, it's about what is God asking you to do in the moment. And if God is asking you to live paycheck to paycheck, because for that season, that's what he's trying to teach you, there's a lesson in there, then that's what we're supposed to do. It's not about suffering. It's about suffering if God asks you to. It's not about being wealthy. It's if God blesses you in that, then that's the season of that life. Right. Yeah. It's not like we're supposed to say, oh, I need to be poor, because sometimes you might lose a job and you might have to move in with your parents and you might have to do this. Well, that's what God is asking you to do. That doesn't mean I intentionally do that stuff to say I'm suffering for God. And that's, I think, what's the difficult part is that, let's say you went through your whole grind, you became a psychologist, and you're just not getting clients. That's a different story now. Maybe God wanted you to have a smaller practice for a certain time, but that doesn't mean you then you slow down your grind.
Correct.
Or here's how it's said, my boy Cam, the journey is the prize. Who you become or who you have to become to find your gifts / purpose. So let's say he's a realtor for development. Let's say he's working hard and grinding all day, but he's just not selling houses. That doesn't mean he stops grinding. Correct. Right? That just means, well, in God's timing, I'm continuing to put my head down and continue to grind. God's blessing and favor will come, which are back to the podcast. They say it's 2 different things. Tithing and being faithful to God is different than worldly blessing.
Correct.
Hard work, putting your nose down, being a great worker with character and integrity. That is, you'll get worldly blessings. You don't have to necessarily have any sort of relationship with Jesus to do that. Yes. They're 2 separate things that as Christians, we need to mend and blend into one.
Yeah.
Another comment here. Some people's passion and hobbies become their idols. I agree. Where you spend and commit your most time is your idol. Where are we spending our most time and money? We can make our work or entertainment our God. Our capital G God needs to be first. Amen. We will guide us and lead us in a way we shall go. That's key. Guide us and lead us where we shall go.
Correct. That's great. That's really good.
And either way, financial blessing, you still grind. Non-financial blessing, you still grind. Unmerited favor, you still grind. Favor that's beyond, like that guy, the guy who got hired for the 1 hour and still got paid the exact. It would be really easy for him to go home and be lazy. Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, dude, tomorrow I'm going to come home. I'm going to come back and hopefully get hired at the last hour again. But that's not biblical.
Yeah.
You grind whether you're the first person the next day or the last person the next day, and pray that God opens and closes doors. At the same time, you are still pushing the envelope forward with your gifts, talents, and abilities.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is one of the secrets that I teach when I coach the CEOs and executives. I tell them, when I try to work with them, I'm working hard on them to get them to figure out their 80-20, which is, it's super cool. If you ever just want to Google 80-20 rule and just pick anything in life, it's almost always going to be 80-20. It's super nuts. But like the concept is like, where I work, okay, 20% of where I work brings in 80% of the profits. Or where I grind, 20% of where I grind brings in, the 80% of my gifts. So like that's a really small 20%. So here's what we have to do. Like I grind 100%, but I have to take a look at my practice and say, okay, where do I get my most joy? Or if I'm money driven in that season, like, okay, where do I get my most amount of money? Who are my highest paying clients or something like that? Or I would say, okay, which clients can I take who I can branch out into that area, or that, like, there was a time when I only took people from Cherokee and Ida Grove to grow my business. Okay. So people would drive in to see me. So you have to be pretty intentional about where that 80-20 is. And what I try to do with the executives is like, look, you have all these things, like they're grinding like incredibly good, outworking like dudes half their age, but they realize that I'm putting 100% in, I'm only getting a 20% return. So if I have them focus on the 20%, that gives them 80%. Then they go like, dude, this is so amazing. Like, how come this is so easy? I don't know. How come nobody teaches this? You know what I'm saying? And this is like, okay, in high school when I played football, dude, I was linebacker. I was kick return. You know, they put me in like on 3rd and long. They put me in a goal line. I was used everywhere and I was exhausted. I got to college and I was only a running back. That's it. You know, so I should punt return and kick return, but basically only a running back. And when you have that much more energy, every time you step on the field, dude, I'm ready to explode. And that's the 80-20 rule. Like, save it all and try to find that gifting in that 20%. So I would just say this: if you take a look at everything I do in the day, what's the work you do? It's still work. It's still grinding at your job. What's the work I do that gives me the most joy? I have the most creative flow. There's a psychological concept called flow. And that's when you practice something so long, so much, that you're just in this state of mind that's just nice and easy, where you don't have to think about it. It's repetitive habit. And people go, dude, how'd you do that? And you're like, I just did it. So that flow is like when Michael Jordan does something super cool, or Kobe did something really cool, and you're like, dude, that's sick. When a professional makes something look super easy, that's their flow. Okay. When you make something look super easy at your work, that's your flow. I promise you, if you grind in that flow, you'll have so much more joy, and your business or whatever it is that you do will grow, because that's where your gifting is. That's where God blesses that work.
Yeah, but the problem is, that's where I disagree though, because at some point, like right now in someone's life, maybe their 20 isn't what pays the bills. It could be the most joy, but it's not practical.
Okay.
That's the difficult part, that you still have to do the 9 to 5 and then after or before. And that's very hard to do.
Yeah. So it might not pay you money, but it's the creative juice that will help the grind.
The energy, the feeling.
It's the energy. I'm not saying you have to quit everything else and just work there, because sometimes you can't make money on that. Like you might, okay. So like if you're drawing, designs for logos for every single sermon and you love it, you're like, oh, what am I going to do? Is quit my job and start designing logos? No. But out of that creative juice, you get that flow state of mind, and then you transfer somewhere else. That flow state is still with you. It's a mindset.
Sure. That'd be more videos.
Yes. And the more you can get into the mindset, the more you establish that flow, you go. That's why I work out a lot, because that grind mindset comes from a workout for me. Other people like listen to music or draw. That grind mindset comes from different spots for them.
I like it.
Yeah.
My final thought would be this: is the grind versus the gift. I think we've stated it before. We both agree that you have to grind to find your giftings.
Yes.
And then once you find your giftings, I think you have to grind even harder. And promotion is of the Lord.
Yes.
I don't think that has anything to do. I think it's both. It's worldly. You can bust your butt at jobs and you'll get promoted. You can bust your butt at a job and sometimes a promotion won't happen. But either way, God has placed you wherever you're at for that season. So make the most of it.
Yes.
Right. And then lastly is Proverbs 22:28-29 says in the Message, observe people who are good at their work. Skilled workers are always in demand and admired. They don't take a backseat to anyone.
Yes.
Work hard in anything you do, regardless of the promotion or not. Find your giftings, grind in your giftings. And if that brings favor and doors open, then keep doing it. If it doesn't bring favor and doors don't open, keep doing it. That's it. That's the tough thing that has to happen. That's where life gets tough, and the mundane just has to keep going. You doing it because God has called you to move his kingdom forward in any area of your life. And that at the end of the day is why we grind and use our gifts and talents to the most to give God the honor and the glory.
Amen. So here's a quick thing. I want to end with this. So people I meet with, mentor, just have coffee with, whatever. Just so we have this thing, just iron sharpens iron. That's biblical. So you work with people who sharpen you, and you sharpen them. So I'm just going to read this part because I want you to listen carefully. See if you can pick out what he's saying my gift is. And this is an exercise I want you guys to do when you meet with people or have coffee with people and somebody you trust. You can ask them, hey, quick question. What do you think my gift would be? You don't have to have a right answer. I just wanted an opinion. And I started to collect them. I didn't ask for this, by the way. You'll understand it. So it says, Raul, in my journey through life, I've come into contact with several influential men, parentheses, leaders, that have helped me to mold me into the man I am today. I know I'm not yet the man God wants me to be, but God wants me to be, but I do believe that I am on my way. As I reflect about the characters of each one of these men, I start to notice similarities between these men. In every single example, I'm not the only person they are influencing. They seem to have been designed with the desire to sow into other men, to pass on their wisdom. I have compiled a list of adjectives that help use the common tools that each man or each leader uses to chip away at me and sculpt me into the man God wants me to be. And he lists a bunch of those, such as encouraging, fathering, challenging, guiding, rebuking, holding me accountable, instilling dreams, teaching, mentoring, coaching. Then he says, I'm sure this list is incomplete, but I will still continue to study it as I continue to grow. I'm writing this because I want to thank you for being an influential leader in my life. I'm writing it down because I know that when I see you, I'll have a hard time telling this to you in front of you. So this way it comes out as a better message. I want you to know that I love you, and I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I want you to know that I look up to you. I want you to know that I respect you. I want you to know that the things that you have been teaching me along the way, I have also been sowing into other men. I'm turning back. That's the language that we use. Sometimes you piss me off, sorry, but only because you're speaking truth in my life. Sometimes that truth can hurt, but ultimately that pain turns into the driving force that creates change. Thank you. You're all those things on the list. Continue to be bold, continue to dream, continue to lead. And if you ever to look back on your climb, you would look back and see me slowly and steadily changing under the influence that you lead me as I lead others. What do you think my gift is?
Motivating.
Yeah. See, motivating, influencing, leading, right? And this desire, God gave it to me. I promise you, coming from 4 broken fathers and, my birth dad who suicided, that he said it. I never told him. I didn't say, hey, this is my dream, or he says that the desire to sow into other men. That's my thing. For some reason, people will just say that to me as I grew up, like, hey, you have this cool gift with men. Hey, you really can influence men. I don't know. It just showed up. And maybe because I'm so mad at my dads that, like, if I see somebody doing something that looks like them, I just say, hey, don't go that way. Like, I don't know what to do or what to say, how to teach. I know what to avoid, though. And that's where the genius is. Like, I know what to avoid, and that's half the battle. So, okay, a last thought for you. What if you don't know where to go? What if you don't know what to do? Like, oh, that's all cool. I'm grinding. Like, there's 16 roads and I don't know where to go. Okay. Then the other 50% of not knowing where to go is this, right? Or what not to do. I promise you, when I talk to people, they know the one thing. Like, you don't have to say it out loud. You can post it if you want to just mention it quick. If I said, if we could remove one thing from your life, just one thing from your life, that would make the most amount of change on your grind or to find your gift. What would it be? What would we remove?
Me personally?
Yeah. If you want to share.
I don't know. I'm kind of right in my sweet spot with what I'm doing right now.
Okay. Most people,
my biggest, the biggest stumbling block is obviously my health and getting my weight down, but that's not necessarily a grind. But for the most part, I'm being here 6 years. I'm kind of settled into a sweet spot as an organization, as the podcast with Stellatastic. And so.
Okay. So you're doing good. Most people would say, time management. And when I say, okay, what's a piece that you would move? They say sleep. Like, if I could wake up earlier or if I could stay up later, sure. That's the number one thing. It's not that big of a deal. I think people know what they have to remove in order to climb, but it's just too hard for them. And they just underestimate the power of that one move. Okay. And that one move is what Crystal just talked about when you posted that, Ty, was about boundaries. Okay.
Well, I think
it's all about boundaries and balance.
On the process of finding your giftings is what you just said. Because of what you had to go through and the lack of father figures in your life led you to that place. Wendy Sue up here said this, as well, that I think I found them a gift at the wake of possibly losing my job. I had a bit of an epiphany over the weekend now to make it happen.
Let's go.
I think the tough part about all of that, though, is like just doing it. You know, like how many years did we talk about making this podcast?
Yes.
And it started off kind of cheeks, and now it's getting better.
Still learning.
And then we found this software. So it's like, as much as we want to say, like, be ready, you just do. Just do.
You just do. Who has the Influence podcast? Craig Rochelle. He posted something that's pretty cool. He's like, do it when you're ready is a lie.
Yeah, you'll never be ready.
I was like, dude, that is so dope. It's so simple, but like, I just sit there and laugh at it. I was like, oh my, this is like just like genius. Like those things that just hit you. You know, do it when you're ready is such a lie, right? You jump in when you feel it. Like, okay, I'm sick of feeling this way. Go, right? Like I just feel good about this. Go, right? Yeah. That's the 2 times thing. When I feel like it and when I don't, just keep going, right? The movement is healing. It's so amazing. So, okay, the 2 secrets again. The grind leads to your gift. Okay. The gift is hidden in your grind. That's number 1. And then number 2, I want you to think about this. Your gifting is going to be found in the creative work. You have to do the creative work to get your gift. It doesn't show up anywhere else. Right.
Yep.
Underestimate the power
of one move.
Absolutely. And this is another thing, Alex. This is another thing. Thank you for your quote there. That's perfect.
You had like 7 one more thing.
Dude, I just okay. But
we have to put a one more thing ticker on.
One more thing. Yeah, just one more. Like you when you're playing Xbox. Oh, Dad, I'm closing up. One more. Run it back. Run it back. Yeah, run it back. Okay, so here's one more thing. Last thought, I promise you. Last thought. When I work with people, they know the answer. I don't give it to them. I just hold space for them until they can shoot a bunch of stuff out. And I'm like, if we could move one of those things, what would it be? And when they do it and go, they change their world. I don't do anything. People just give me this like, hey, he's a genius. I'm like, no, I just sit and listen. Right. So they underestimate the power of one move. That's the genius. Good job. Hey, thanks for being on here, people. This is awesome.
2 final thoughts. Do it afraid.
Yes. That's another one.
And when you're uncomfortable.
Amen. 2 times, people. 2 times.
Pick a lane and go.
2 times. When you feel like it and when you don't.
Sweet. Any last things? 2 weeks. I don't think we have a topic for in 2 weeks, but we'll be back on here.
I have a couple, so we'll have to decide.
We'll kind of brainstorm. We'll let you know. Obviously, follow us on social media. And as always, renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation. And don't forget,
Amen.
2 times to be great when you feel like it, and when you don't. Peace. We love you.
I had to realize what's inside of me. For all of the people that lied to me. For all of the people that said I would fall off. Oh, but what a time to be alive. I wrote this for everyone, feel like they counted out. You need to look in the mirror and tell yourself it's time to be who I am now. Greatness.